All opinions expressed in the video are my own. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, and we are looking at the natal chart of the most incredible designer and artist, Alexander McQueen, and I'm very excited. I have no idea what his chart looks like. This is all free fall chart reading, and let's dive in. You're here with Allah, and thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share, and hit the notification bell not to miss any other awesome chart readings. Let's do this. I'm so excited. Okay, well, Alexander McQueen is a fashion designer who has left such a gold standard in fashion, and he has left just an amazing legacy. Everyone is trying to quite fit the bill, and Alexander McQueen sadly unalived himself just shortly after his mother passed away. And we're going to not only have a look at the natal chart just to see what he was working with from the get-go, but we will also look at his last day and if there's any prominent transits happening that could describe possibly, allegedly, what could possibly be happening with him. Again, all my natal chart readings are educational in nature, are speculative in nature as well, because we can't talk to the person anymore, can't ask them the question. We can only read the chart from the astrological perspective, and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. And let's begin. Alexander McQueen, born 17th of March, 1969. Alexander McQueen is a Scorpio rising. Scorpio rising is over here on the cusp of the first house. And we have a lot of opposition happening between the 11th house, the house of aspirations, friendships, dreams, a little bit of an ostracized house. Because, yeah, it's all about finding your own individuality in the group, in a huge mass. How do you stand out? And do you really have to? He's got a stallion here that is, of course, opposing the 5th house, the house of self, the house of your ego structure self, the one that wants to play and have fun and be daring and be careless and doesn't really care much about what anyone else is doing as long as they're having fun. So we already see here something is happening between my ego, my fun, what I like, what I want, what I prefer, and what I value, and what I just know that it's really resonating with who I truly am, who I want to be. The 5th house, the house of the inner child. And if you have children, it's the house of your children. All of that is opposing the house of groups, organizations, institutions, their higher goals, the higher meaning, a little bit more consciously attuned. And that's the opposition between the archetypes of the 5th and 11th house, which correspond to Leo, or the house in the case of the 5th house, Leo or the sun, and in the case of the 11th house, it is Aquarius. Straight away we can tell that Alexander was very social, sort of like a social butterfly, you would say, and on the other hand, he felt also like a child in a way. And it's not in a way that is spoiled brat kind of child, more so innocent child. And look, I honestly looked at many charts and I really rarely have seen just so many planets in stelliums like together in opposite ends. And this is what we have here. Normally they're scattered around, but here it's like some stuff happening here. Pluto, South Node, Jupiter, Uranus in the 11th house, Virgo, Libra, and opposing Chiron, North Node, Sun, and Moon, Aries, Pisces. So with the Sun, it is conjunct Alexander's Moon in Pisces in the 5th house. And that gives us a person who ruled by Neptune. And Neptune, it has a lovely trine here happening in his 1st house in Scorpio, and he's a Scorpio rising. So there's already the like a locking of energy, and you see how interesting this Neptune is something. I don't know why I always pick people like that, but they always have something to do with Neptune in the 1st or the 12th house. There's always something with the Neptune. And it's again, Neptune is that enigma. And what do we know about Alexander McQueen? We know him through his creativity, the 5th house, the house of having fun and being creative, being a kid, like splashing the paint on the wall. And he did splash spray paint on the dresses. He was like so innovative. It was insane. The Sun is opposing that South Node in Libra on top of Jupiter, on top of Uranus. So it was explosive. It was, and Libra is all about aesthetic, very golden ratio, Venusian, amazing Aphrodite aesthetic with that Uranian edge. Everything Uranus, straight away just make it kinetic sand it. It's just like, you don't know which way it's gonna go, but it's just mesmerizing to watch. Something that just like, oh, wow, I didn't know such thing exists, kinetic sand. And it was like the same for the fashion world. The 11th house, the groups, the organization, the fashion houses, like big groups of people, like when they saw what he was doing, what he was pulling off ahead of his time, their jaws were on the floor. But it's the South Node, so it's something from the past. So whatever he was doing, his soul knew how to do it from the get-go. He was born to do art at a huge scale. Jupiter expanding all of that. 11th house, just like a whole world. The whole world was his oyster. But that's an opposition, so there's tension there. It's like whether the mesmerized groups or how you really feel here with the Pisces. Pisces, Sun and Moon together. Trining Neptune in the 1st house. He was a very secretive person. He didn't really show, you wouldn't even know that he's that, how do I say it? He looks like I think he was, I'm not sure. I think he was having like a very common background. It was not like he was born, with a silver spoon in his mouth. He looks like, to me, he looks like a baker or a butcher or something. And this is what it was. It was like a glitch in the system. The guy who doesn't even look like he's genius or fashion, he is one. What are you gonna do about it? Like, he doesn't come across as what you would expect him to come across, and that was the whole point. And the 1st house, and having Neptune in the 1st house, we remember who had Neptune in the 1st house. Marilyn Monroe had it, but it was in Leo. And you really don't know what the hell's going on with that girl. Like, is she, is she like, which way is she? Up, down, left, right? Which way is she? And here it's kind of like similar. Oh, he's this. Scary because sometimes like your own image and your own way you are perceived by the masses can be like, ooh, now you're trapped in that vision. But I feel with the Scorpio here, and the Mars is right there next door, because Mars rules Scorpio. And if we look at the contemporary ruler, modern ruler, It's the Pluto that rules Scorpio. So there's a complex situation here in terms of the perception, the protection of self, the perception of self and the protection of self. He was protecting himself from whatever, from his own creations, from his own status, from his own dreams. I would safely say that Alexander was never stopping to dream, and he lived through his dreams. It was not just work. It was his life. Each dress he made was his child. He took it personal. And this here, it's so impersonal. It's just a dress. You know what I mean? It's just a physical object. It's beautiful, this and that. Give us more. It becomes a bit of a systematized, but if it's too systematic, oh, you're just stuck. We want more innovation. We want more. Like, how real are these standards here? How real are they? And the heart that's beating and feeling, the Piscean heartbeat, and the moon right there, that's real. So we have a blurring of personal and the commodity. Well, should I say more on how this would affect anyone in Alexander McQueen's position? I feel it could be a little bit of a disillusionment element, but we're going to look at Alexander's last day just to see, just to make sure with the transits. If my hypothesis here is disillusionment. And let's go back to the evolutionary scenario. So Pluto and the South Node have 7 degrees of separation. So they I would call it a conjunction, because Pluto, it's a loose conjunction, because like you can take 1 degree separation and that's the conjunction, or you can take up to 10, because those planets like Pluto, they take forever to move around the sun, and in our life we would only go through maybe like four signs that Pluto will undertake if we're lucky. So you would not experience Pluto in Gemini, let's say, if you have Pluto on the opposite end in Sagittarius. You would never live through it. So this is a generational mark, but in evolutionary astrology, Pluto is, that soul growth through challenges. And definitely for Alexander, having this much stuff going on in the groups, organizations, hopes, dreams, ostracization. Don't know if that's the word. Isolation. Like imagine you are a little node in the network. You don't have any face, but you are Alexander McQueen. How would that make you feel? Just another bolt in the system. Do you want to be in that system? Did they even ask you about it? Because he was there for the passion, right? He just wanted, he wanted, this is the 5th house. It's not just I would love to. Like, that's the vibe. I would love to do that. Would you want to go to Italy for summer vacations? Yeah, hell yeah. Like, that was his mojo. Like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Let's be creative. Pisces, like, we can do everything we want. And where his ego was, that's how he felt. Like, you kind of see what you get if you close enough. But for everyone else, the 1st house, what everyone else is seeing, It's that enigma. It's that, hodgepodge looking guy who is actually like the coolest guy ever. So much talent. Such a vision. Oh my God. I mean, I went to LA and I got leggings from Alexander McQueen for $600. I didn't care. I was like young and reckless. And I was like, I'm gonna get those leggings, $600, and I'm wearing them, and everyone's saying, "Oh my God, are these like leg tattoos or something?" Like that's just such a break in the system, that at the time. And now they try to catch up to him. They can never really replicate it. But I mean, Alexander McQueen as a fashion house is doing incredible things because of Alexander McQueen himself. So you think about the scale of influence, the scale of inspiration, the scale of creativity. It was like full house. But what was the issue with Mr. Alexander? What was the issue there? And I feel the issue lies in the Aries section of his chart. We have here North Node, 0 degrees Aries. It's a critical degree. It's not the degree I want to see ever in my life. So his sole mission was to individuate and to start afresh. Done with the relationships, done with the groups, done with all these organizations, done with the system. South Node in the 11th house in Libra. Done with the relations within the organization. Done with the system. I'm done. I want to be a free artist. I want to be free. Amy Winehouse, I feel, had also related aspect. I remember she had a South Node in the 7th house, which represents Libra. So in her context, it was like about relationships properly, like one-on-one. But here we have me versus the group. What's the group doing? The whispers in the ear. Imagine like 100 different voices telling you who you are, what are you doing, how great you are, how not great you are, why are you not great, why are you not great today. You're gonna be like, I'm in the creative process here. Can we just like cut the noise, please? And when you enter the room, the air just changes and you feel it. You feel everything. You're like, oh my God, I wish they would just let it go. No one is letting it go. They want you. They want you. They need you. They can't live without you. And his pretty much mission in this life was to be saying, I'm my own boss, leave me alone. I do what I want. And whatever happened in his last day, I speculate that it could have been that void maybe that he personally experienced, and it brought him down. And we have that opposition with the group. I'm not saying there's a particular group. I'm not like trying to point any group here. I'm just saying like that archetype, that stardom. It's a lot of weight, a lot of expectation. I felt like there was a dark secret that Alexander was holding, and maybe that played a trick on his mind in a way. I feel it has something to do with that feelings, thoughts, belief systems, and I will explain why. So Sun in Pisces conjunct the moon, so he was born on the dark waning moon, so like just before the new moon. All of that here is making a trine to Neptune in Scorpio. And if we take ancient rulerships, it's related to Mars, and Neptune is related to Pisces. So really strong sun here. He was feeling very deep. And I feel if we just say moon means the mother, so he was really close with his mother. And I feel like she was the one protecting him and defining his boundaries, just like having a huge influence on how he came across and what he did and why he did that. And as you know, his mom and passed away, and then shortly after. And the question comes, why? What a sad story. Was it because of that? Was it because of his connection to his mom? And we would never know because Neptune will never tell you. It will only show you hologram of possibilities, and then you have to pick yours with your heart, your intuition. We would never know. It's kind of like a mystery. The North Node in Aries, a person came here to be a warrior of will. No people pleasing, no nothing. I mean, obviously you have to be polite, nice, and abide the law. But in other scenarios, you're here to be daring, and oh boy, he was daring. But at what price? Chiron is right there. If he would still be alive, he would be going through a Chiron return. He would have gone through the Chiron return and fulfilled his mission. So we don't know what would have happened if Alexander McQueen was still around. What would happen to the organizational status of fashion as it is? Maybe he would just say, you know what, fashion is no longer good, and we should stop it, and all recycle, and just recycle what we already have made. Like he would have made something that was just maybe even it's my personal opinion, guys. I'm not saying that it could have happened, but if he was still around, he would change for sure, to unrecognizable standards, the fashion and the way it is operated systematically. And here we can get all into, some theories about who needed him to go. Like, you could ask these questions, and some people have. Yeah, he was really serious about what he was doing. So let's just stay in this Aries section. So Chiron was there. It was the art that he suffered through. He created something that he felt and he knew was a new territory to him, but he was like, I'm going to explore. He was going through this jungle with a machete and just smashing it around and just like, let's see what happens if we chop this thing up and arrange it in a way that could create new meaning. And everyone was like, oh my God, off the charts. Like, so simple yet so brilliant. Just amazing. And that was his charm, like he was simple. He was simple, but he was not. He was emotionally really complex, deep, and it felt like he was really determined, really passionate. He really was a go-getter. He was supposed to be doing that. So he was fulfilling his mission in that regard. He was like doing well. But in the end, like, what is that? I'm not I'm not saying like I'm not looking down people who struggle with mental health. No way. It just was a shock to the system. So in any case, it was still there. The shock to the system was still there. The only thing that was gone, though, was not the system, but the guy. Work ethic. Sixth house is the house of ethic, is the house of work, the house of health. So we have something going on here between that Venus in Aries in the sixth house. Venus in Aries is not, she's happy in Libra. In Aries, though, it's like, dykes on bikes kind of Venus. So his aesthetic, the way he looked, was very, very like leather, dark glasses, shirts, wrinkly shirts, jeans, ripped jeans. It was not like Escada, pink fuchsia, velvet handbag shit. No. It was not like that. It was like brutalist style. You know, I'm calling it that, but it could not be called that. I don't know. With the tags and all these. And then we have Saturn right there, so it's extra full on. And life was not easy for Alexander McQueen. It was not really easy. He didn't know what to do. And all of this is Ceci square. Hang on, let me make sure I'm saying this right. Ceci square. Mars is Ceci squaring Saturn. Jeez. It's a square and a half, meaning whatever he was doing, it's visible. People hear about it, people see it. Whatever he was doing, he wanted to gain something. But what was he gaining? Was he gaining more of himself? Was he really protecting himself? Or was he trying to hack the system and do something that nobody would notice? So he was the guy in charge, picking and choosing who is exactly in his team. This is where he felt like this is where I can actually control things, where I can be the guy, the boss. Because it kind of felt like he was a commodity. He was like a poster child. And I don't know if he was agreeing with many things. It's like true artistry, like you do sometimes hate your own artworks. You hate, could even hate the collections that you have made. I feel like here it could be the case. It'd be like, could do better. Next time we're gonna do even better. It was like always achieving, overachieving. So he held quite big, like high standards for sure. And he was a risk taker with the fiery energy there. He was learning to do that, risk taking more and more and more because of the North Node in Aries, where the soul is growing into more to be more like Aries. Aries is all about action and initiation and even aggressiveness. I'm not saying that he was aggressive, but I'm just saying like, the mojo is fire. And if you go to the opposite end, it's South Node in a Libra. And Libra is ruled by Venus. And he has Venus in the Mars sign. So what is happening with his Mars? Like a lot of contradiction here. And like I find there's a lot of like there has to be so many compromises. But was he willing to do that? Was he willing to compromise? That's the question. Mars is where the Saturn, as we know, and that is in conjunct Pluto. So that his last day, whatever was happening then, I feel my hypothesis, and we're going to look at it in a minute, is that something was triggered in relation to Pluto or in relation to whether the Moon, Pluto, Mars, or Saturn. One of these was triggered, and we have what we have. And having Mars squaring Mercury, and Mercury is not really doing great in Pisces, is much better off in Virgo on the opposite end. In Pisces is all over the shop. I mean, I have Mercury in Sagittarius, and sometimes I say I like my the way I say things is like horses running and I can't stop them. Like it's like the train of thought is 100 trains at the same time. And in Pisces, it's like imagine all of that train wrecks, and you just mush it into a big gum, and then you liquefy it and fill the ocean with it. And that's Alexander McQueen's mind. It's how his mind works. It is non-linear. It's emotion-based. It's Pisces. And he's got Sun in Pisces with the Moon in Pisces. So there's a lot going on in Pisces here already. Opinions of others would be considered really important, but they would not rub well with his nature. And that would trigger emotional response and also a thought process that is in conflict with some sort of belief system. Mars in Sagittarius, the belief system upon which he acts on. And I feel this was where this unknown territory, that's where his strike of genius was living, and nobody could intellectualize it over here. No one could do that. You can tell AI to give you Alexander McQueen inspired design measurements for the dress, but it's not going to be Alexander McQueen. You know what I mean? And that's why this story is fascinating. All right, let's have a look at his last day. And what did I tell you? Saturn was on top of his south node. Jupiter, Uranus, opposing north node, the sun, the moon. What did I tell you? On the moon we have Uranus. So his moon was really triggered. Something happened in his mom's life. A sudden change. Broke his heart. It did. And here we have responsibilities. Saturn. Responsibilities in the system, in the group. And you're going through this really unpleasant experience. You have lost your mother. What's going on? And Jupiter is on top of his Mercury, on top of that liquefied train station with multiple trains coming in and out. This liquid metal of destinations. Where are we going? What are we doing? And it's the fourth house, really private. A lot of planets here related to Aquarius. In Aquarius, he has the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, and that's triggered by Saturn. The responsibility was creeping into his personal life, and his personal life was going through challenges, grief. It could have paralyzed something within, because Aquarius is a fixed sign. It has that. It's an electric shock. I don't believe it was as simple as that, but I do see how it played out. It feels to me very abrupt, impulsive. And I don't know, I wish I could tell you why. I really wish. Sometimes you can tell, you can speculate and be like, I feel like it's this. Can give you opinion on things, but here I'm like, maybe we can go deeper. Let's try. Uranus on top of the moon. Uranus is that abrupt change in Pisces, abrupt change with the moon, with how he feels. Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Let's just hop through archetypal dignities and links and correspondences. So that's related to Neptune. We go to Neptune. What's happening there? We have Venus squaring Neptune, and Neptune is squaring Neptune. So he added Neptune square. That's a long-lasting transit, and it could feel a bit hostile and like you don't belong. Maybe he just felt like he doesn't belong anymore. Maybe that mom was that connection with mother was like that anchor that would like give him those boundaries, and now mom is gone, so there are no boundaries. Neptune is washing out his Neptune, and because it's him as like in terms of ascendant, it's like the first house, the house of I am. So I am who? I am what? And this just kept on pressing. Saturn just kept on pushing and pushing into that south node. And the south node, I swear, like when I feel the south node transits, I'm just like, it's my south node is in Virgo, and I just feel all the of Virgo, all of that I feel, and I'm like, when will I let this go? When will I let this go? And sometimes just you can't let it go until your last breath, really. South Node can be really inevitable. Just just baggage you have to deal with. You just have to clear it out. But how do you do that? And when it's been like ironed with very strong Saturn that's exalted in Libra retrograde over all this influence, all this momentum, all this aesthetic, all this noise. It's not really who you are, or is it? So that's a little bit of that disillusionment I feel here in the system, in the world, maybe even at large, because Neptune is that it's that like worldly vibe, yeah. Maybe the world is no longer the same because you don't recognize it anymore, and when you internalize it, you just don't know what fits anymore. Ah, I feel sorry. I feel sorry for this sad story. That's just all I can really say. Is there anything else? It was chaotic, it was impulsive, it was numbing, and it was hostile, and it was cold. But it was crowded. It was crowded. It was people there. People were around. But when things like, mental health happen, sometimes it doesn't matter. It just, you still feel very alone. He was one of the most sensitive souls out there, and sometimes the blessing becomes a curse. Like that success could have been playing a big part in what happened. Success is different for different people, and sometimes fame, you have to be a particular person to be able to handle it. And knowing that he kind of already been through this and solidified it already in his past lives, being a person of power in the society, he just wanted to be a child. And when maybe the mom was gone, he was no longer a child, and that responsibility was just too much for his undertakings because he was like a pure diamond, like sparkling, reflecting the light. But then the sun was gone and it was put in the water and it just disappeared because that's what happens to diamonds. You put them in the water, you don't see the diamond anymore. So the environment maybe has changed. And he is really all about the environment because he's got Venus in the sixth house. So it just feels like abrupt, chaotic, don't know what to do. I do know what to do, but should I do that? Belief systems, the way, the mind patterns. Mercury and Neptune is prone to mental health. I'm not saying if you have Mercury Neptune that you have that, what he has, but I mean, more likely to be having these illusions and fears and anxieties and how the mind works, like creating fences for yourself. So that was my take on Alexander McQueen's chart. I look forward to hear from you in the comments section. And thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate you so much. Make sure that you share the video with a friend or someone who needs this, and subscribe, and I will see you in other videos. Bye.